Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shuja and these are the headlines. The number of coronavirus cases has crossed 112 million, with the death toll exceeding 2.48 million. Brazil has reported over 1,300 COVID-19 deaths in a day, while its tally is over 248,000. Pakistan has registered nearly 1,200 cases and 50 deaths overnight, as its fatality count crosses 12,700. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan and Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa have discussed bilateral ties. Prime Minister Khan called on Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the Presidential Secretariat in Colombo. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said Pakistan is standing side by side with Sri Lanka as a partner for the development of human resources, security cooperation, and fighting terrorism, along with development and prosperity. In India, farmers have threatened to block and shut the country's parliament down if the centre does not repeal the agriculture laws. Addressing a grand meet, farmers leader Rakesh Tiakat said 4 million tractors will rally on New Delhi's roads. Tiakat added that the Republic Day violence in Delhi was a conspiracy against the farmers. In Ecuador, at least 62 people have been killed and dozens wounded in violent riots between rival gangs at 3 prisons. Officials described the gun and knife battle as a concerted action by criminal organizations. President Lenin Moreno has declared a temporary state of emergency in prisons. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan and Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa have discussed bilateral ties. Prime Minister Imran Khan called on Gotabaya Rajapaksa at the Presidential Secretariat in Colombo. On Tuesday, in a joint press conference with the Sri Lankan counterpart Mahinda Rajapaksa, Prime Minister Imran Khan invited Colombo to extend its regional and economic connectivity via Pakistan up to Central Asia. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said Pakistan is standing side by side with Sri Lanka as a partner for the development of human resources, security cooperation, fighting terrorism, development, and prosperity. The Foreign Minister said Pakistan has transformed its geopolitical priorities into geoeconomic priorities. Both countries have also signed several memorandums of understanding on commerce, investment, and technology. Pakistan's Human Rights Minister Shirin Mazari says India has become the most dangerous and violent country for minorities. Addressing United Nations Human Rights Council, she said that the BJP government is snubbing dissent by harassing journalists and human rights activists. Mazari condemned India's attempts to convert the Muslim majority in occupied Kashmir into a minority. She said demographic engineering violates the 4th Geneva Convention. The minister urged the council to take notice of India's gross human rights violations in occupied Kashmir. Briefing the council on India's nefarious designs against Pakistan, Mazari said Indian actions are jeopardizing regional peace. Pakistan's National Assembly has passed a bill banning corporal punishment in a development hailed by child rights group. The ICT prohibition of corporal punishment bill is effectively bans all forms of physical punishment. Earlier, organizations and activists working for child protection had stressed upon the parliament to pass the legislation at the earliest. It will penalize teachers for assault and injuries inflicted upon the children. The proposed law will now go into the Senate for approval. The global number of coronavirus cases has crossed 112 million, with the death toll exceeding 2.48 million. Brazil has reported over 1,300 COVID-19 deaths in a day, while its tally is over 248,000. More on the coronavirus in this report. While some governments are easing the coronavirus curbs due to lowering cases, warnings of spring waves driven by the new variants and hiccups in the inoculation drives pose a major challenge to fight the coronavirus. Experts have rung the alarm bells over a more contagious UK variant likely to fuel a surge of cases around April and May in the United States. Meanwhile, the CDC data proves racial inequality marring the vaccine drive in the United States. In Bolivia, prosecutors clashed with riot police to demand the repeal of a controversial health law, banning them from going on strike during the pandemic. In Greece, doctors have gone on strike and dozens marched in Athens to protest suffocating conditions at hospitals during the pandemic.
This is not a law that answers the necessities of the country. The government tells us that we are inhuman, but they are the ones who are inhuman, as they have done absolutely nothing to improve Bolivia's health system for decades. That is why we are out on the streets to tell the government to stop with unconstitutional laws.
Europe's vaccine drive is far behind schedule, with Brussels confirming that AstraZeneca will fall short of its promised delivery by more than half. In the United Kingdom as well, the number of vaccines administered has fallen by over a third in the last week due to a dip in supply. Hospitalizations in France have hit a 12-week peak as regional officials urge for a ban on public gatherings. Ireland is reopening the schools, but at the same time has extended other lockdown restrictions until April. Meanwhile, the Netherlands slightly eased COVID-19 restrictions while keeping in place the controversial nighttime curfew.
Het tweede waar ik heel duidelijk over wil zijn.
I want to be clear that we only take these risks today because of the existing measures. That includes the curfew and the advice to welcome only one person a day at home. All the measures we extend today will be in place until March 15th. But if the infections rise again, then all other options to tighten the rules will be on the table again.
Meanwhile, the World Bank has threatened to suspend its multi-million-dollar financing for Lebanon's vaccination drive over politicians jumping the line. Pakistan has lost 50 more lives to the new coronavirus over the past 24 hours. The death toll has risen to 12,708. Health officials say 1,196 more people have tested positive. Out of over 574,000 infected so far, more than 538,000 people have recovered. However, there are still 24,000 active cases in Pakistan. In India, farmers have threatened to block and shut the country's parliament down if the centre does not repeal the agricultural laws. Farmers leader Rakesh Tikayat says 4 million tractors will rally on New Delhi's roads instead of the 400,000 on the 26th of January. Addressing a grand meet, Tikayat urged the farmers to be prepared for the Delhi march, as the call for it can be given at any time. He added that the Republic Day violence in Delhi was a conspiracy against the farmers. Meanwhile, another farmer from Punjab destroyed his wheat crop in protest against the 3 laws. The United States has again urged Iran to cooperate with the United Nations nuclear watchdog and reverse steps that reduce transparency. In a press briefing, U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price said that Iran is moving further away from the nuclear deal compliance. Price said if Iran resumes its full compliance with the nuclear deal, the United States will be prepared to do the same. He said Washington will be in close consultation with the nuclear watchdog on appropriate action to deal with Tehran. Price insisted that Tehran cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency to resolve these issues. Earlier, France, Britain, and Germany condemned Iran's suspension of an additional protocol under the JCPOA. This comes after the IAEA expressed deep concern over Iran's undeclared nuclear material at a secret location. The United States and Iraq have agreed to hold perpetrators of the recent rocket attacks on Iraqi and coalition personnel accountable. U.S. President Joe Biden and Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi spoke on a phone call. In a statement, the White House said Biden affirmed the United States' support for Iraq's sovereignty and independence. The leaders also discussed the importance of advancing the strategic dialogue between the two countries. This follows a rocket barrage on the heavily fortified Green Zone in the capital city of Baghdad. In Ecuador, at least 62 people have been killed and dozens wounded in riots between rival gangs at 3 prisons. The government describes the violence as a concerted action by the criminal organizations. The riots erupted in prisons in the Guayaquil and Quinisiga and La Tupunga cities simultaneously. Officials say the order was resorted with the help of an additional 800 police officers. The government says some police officers were also wounded during the riots. President Lenin Moreno has also declared a temporary state of emergency in prisons across the Andean country. Protesters have taken to the streets in Myanmar for the 21st straight day against the 1st February coup. Demonstrators are gathering to hold a multi-ethnic rally in Yangon in the northern part of the commercial hub of Yangon. Indonesia says Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi will not travel to Myanmar to hold talks with the country's military leaders. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry said that the decision comes after the input of other ASEAN countries that is not in the ideal time for the visit. Earlier, the group of 7 condemned intimidation and oppression of those opposing the coup. U.S. Capitol security officials have blamed intelligence failures for the 6th January attack. The officials were ousted in the wake of the attack that had claimed 4 lives. Testifying to a Senate committee, the officials said that the rioters came prepared with weapons, radios, and climbing gear. They said they were coordination and planning among the crowd before the attack. Capitol Police Chief Stephen A. Sund said that none of the intelligence officials received predict what actually occurred. Sund said that they were preparely planned for a mass demonstration with possible violence. He added what happened instead was a military-style coordinated assault on officers and a violent takeover of the Capitol. Nepal's top court has ordered the reinstatement of a parliament, dealing a blow to Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. The ruling means Oli faces a no-confidence vote once parliament resits. The country's verdict comes 2 months after the premier dissolved the House and called for an early election. Judges heard over a dozen petitioners challenging Oli's move as unconstitutional and seeking the reinstatement of the House. Judges said that the House of Representatives is able and competent to perform its work. They said that the parliament must be convened within the next 13 days. Turkey has blamed Greece for violating a fundamental principle of the asylum law. Turkish Deputy Foreign Minister says Athens pushed over 80,000 refugees back to Turkey in the last 3 years. At a seminar, Yuvaz Selim said Ankara has shared proof of Athens' illegal pushbacks with international organizations, including the European Union. He said Turkey currently hosts over 4 million refugees, including around 3.6 million from Syria. The plight of refugees in Syria's Idlib on the Greek islands and the European Union's external borders has worsened over the last few months. Lebanon says it cannot pay for fuel to generate electricity beyond March unless more financing is approved. Energy Minister Raymond Gajar said that he has asked the Lebanese leadership to approve an emergency loan of $996 million to buy more fuel. Earlier, he said Lebanon only has enough fuel for a couple of months. Gajar said that it is too costly for the country to hold strategic reserves for 6 months. Lebanon's financial meltdown has fueled unrest, locked depositors out of their accounts, and sparked a collapse in the currency. Niger's ruling party candidate Mohamed Bazoum has won the second round of the presidential election. The Electoral Commission said Bazoum has won 55.75% of the vote, beating former President Mohamed Ousmane. At a celebration rally, Bazoum promised he will be the people's loyal servant. The provisional results must still be confirmed by the Constitutional Court. Ousmane has rejected the results, blaming the government of fraud. Opposition supporters burned tires in the streets after the results were announced. In a statement, Ousmane's campaign manager said that the opposition demands immediate suspension of the publication of election results. President Joe Biden says that the United States has no closer friend than Canada. This comes as Biden held his first bilateral meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The virtual meetup sought to turn a page on the Trump era, stressing deep ties between the two countries. Biden said Washington and Ottawa will coordinate on a wide range of issues, including COVID-19, economic recovery, and refugees. The United States president said he has agreed to work with Trudeau to work together towards achieving the goal of zero net emissions by 2050.
Canada and the United States are going to work in lockstep to display the seriousness of our commitment at both home and abroad. To that end, we're launching a high-level climate ambition ministerial and to align our policies and our goals and to achieve net zero emissions by 2050.
Trudeau has welcomed Washington's renewed attention to climate change in contrast with the former U.S. administration. Now, moving on, Mexico has urged the United States to provide details on the arrest of the wife of jailed Mexican drug lord Joaquin El Chapo. However, President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador termed the detention as a U.S. matter. Talking to reporters, Obrador said he hoped Washington will share further information about the arrest. He added her arrest may be linked to the case of former Mexican Security Minister Genaro Garcia Luna. Emma Colonel Sporo was arrested by authorities at an airport just outside Washington on Monday. The U.S. Justice Department charged her with helping Guzman continue to run his drug cartel during his imprisonment. A U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee has held a hearing on massive cyber attacks that targeted government agencies. Top executives from SolarWinds, Microsoft, FireEye, and CrowdStrike Holdings attended the hearing. The executives told the committee that they were still trying to assess the damage of the hacks. They defended their conduct in the breaches and sought to shift responsibility elsewhere in their testimony. They also warned the lawmakers that the intrusion is bigger and more dangerous than first realized. The executives argued for greater transparency and information sharing about the hacks with liability protections.
We do need to enhance the sharing of threat intelligence. Now, that's the term in the cybersecurity community for information about attacks that people are seeing. And our basic challenge today is that that information too often exists in silos. It exists in silos in the government, exists in different companies. It doesn't come together.
The hacks blamed on Russia targeted about 9 federal agencies and about 100 U.S. companies. Moving on, great Tiger Golf Woods has undergone surgery after sustaining multiple leg injuries in a car crash in Los Angeles. A statement on his Twitter page says Woods is now awake, responsive, and recovering in his hospital room. Addressing a press conference, Sheriff Alex Venezuela said that there was no evidence of the driver being impaired. Venezuela said that Woods appeared to have been traveling at a relatively greater speed than normal. He added there were no skid marks or signs of braking.
No skid marks, no braking. So apparently the first contact was with the center median, and from there then crossed into the opposing lane of traffic, hit the curb, hit a tree, and there was several rollovers during that process.
Fellow golfers, former U.S. President Donald Trump and others sent messages of support to Woods. Moving on, citizens of the Gaza Strip have breathed a sigh of relief as they will now have a chance to access reliable energy. Officials say talks on a gas pipeline have moved from the abstract to the concrete level in recent weeks. For years, a gas pipeline project was a far-fetching dream due to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Peace talks between the two sides broke down in 2014 and never resumed amid mutual suspicion and outbreaks of violence. But Israeli, Palestinian, Qatari, and European interests have converged in recent weeks with the aim of bringing the energy source to Gaza in 2023.
The Gaza Strip has been suffering for years from a suffocating electricity shortage. There's only 200 megawatt of power available, while this winter we needed around 500 megawatt.
The plan will see natural gas from the deep water of Leviathan Field in the eastern Mediterranean flow into Israel. From there, the gas will move into Gaza through a proposed new extension. Under the arrangement, Qatar will fund Israeli side of the pipeline, while the European Union will pay for the section in Gaza.
The recent breakthrough in the power deal about connecting power plant with natural gas has been received positively, and there were positive reactions in the Gaza Strip. That will be good for the electricity distributing company because that means there will be reduction in the expenses. Also, that will be reflected on the production process.
If successful, the pipeline project will provide a steady energy source to the Gaza Strip for the first time in years. The gas strip will bring an end to the rolling blackouts that have crippled the economy of the blockaded Palestinian enclave. Age has no limits. It is certainly true for this 81-year-old fitness grandma who has taken TikTok by storm. TikTok, a social media platform of the young trend-setting crowd strutting their stuff, is now home to Germany's very own 81-year-old fitness dame. Nicknamed Fitness Gran, Erika Rischko is not letting Corona get to her and definitely has no plans for sofa bingo. Instead, she's conquering TikTok one press-up and one cha-cha at a time. Rischko has uploaded more than 100 videos of herself doing exercises like planks and push-ups, as well as dancing, to encourage others to remain active during the lockdown.
Super, ist einfach toll.
This is super, just great. I'm super happy about it. I have never been as confident about myself as I am at this moment. This whole thing really gave me a push, all of this, TikTok and Instagram.
She has amassed around 125,000 followers and more than 2 million likes on the app. And her fame has spread beyond Germany, with the Spreuerlangfeld local now also a fixture in America.
Könnt ihr nicht unsere Großeltern sein?
Will you be our grandparents? These are some requests we get. Or, my granny is dead, couldn't you take her place? I live here, but I live even further away. Especially the Americans with their God bless you. All these, it's just amazing and crazy. Nobody was expecting this. I thought people would watch us, but all this attention, it's just crazy.
Rischko, who reads all the comments after breakfast, beams at the cameras and gets ready for her next challenge. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific have tumbled following the overnight plunge on Wall Street amid coronavirus concerns and vaccine shortages. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index is leading the losses, plummeting close to 3.5%. Mainland Chinese stocks have dived over 2.5%, with both the Shanghai Composite and the Shenzhen Component shedding. South Korea's Kospi has shed over 2% as well. The Nikkei 225 in Japan has also dipped more than 1.5%. Australia's ASX 200 has slipped nearly 1%. In the Pakistan Super League, Karachi Kings will face Islamabad United today at the National Stadium in Karachi. Both teams won their respective previous encounters. The Islamabad United romped home by 3 wickets against the Multan Sultans, while the Karachi Kings made a rock-licking start as they thrashed the Quetta Gladiators by 7 wickets. In an earlier clash, Peshawar Zammi beat Sultans by 6 wickets. Tom Kohler-Cadmore was declared player of the match. He was the top scorer with 53, while Imam-ul-Haq added 48 to help Zulmi chase down the target with 1 over to spare. This was the first victory for Zulmi, while Sultans are yet to register their win in this season. It's now time to take a look at the weather around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.